Hi everybody, it's Honest John again. Now I'm glad that the two men who tried to shoot up the Draw Muhammad Day contest in Texas were stopped by the police and killed by a very brave cop who got them both. This was one guy with a pistol against two guys in full body armors with assault weapons, and he took them both out. It's better that they be dead than the people inside. Now I understand that these guys were from Phoenix, which explains why a known terrorist sympathizer who had been convicted of lying to the FBI about trying to go to the Middle East to fight with Al-Qaeda could get a weapon. I mean, hell, in Arizona, Osama bin Laden could have bought a gun legally. Now, I support free speech, and I think that being offended is no excuse for violence of any kind. I remember when Robert Mapplethorpe placed a crucifix in a glass of urine and called it art. Now, even though I was at that time not even a practicing Catholic, I thought it was offensive, and I didn't think it was really art. And I still don't. Pissing in a glass does not take any particular skill. And even though a lot of Christians were offended, nobody tried to kill the guy. But even though the vast majority of Muslims would not commit acts of violence in response to the cartoons or any other provocation, there are enough who would and do respond with violence to make one wonder, what's the deal with that religion? It's not like this is the first time that this has happened. Muslim imams have issued fatwas, for example, calling for the death of Salman Rushdie. If the Pope did that, a lot of Catholics would simply find a new church to go to. Demonstrations over the burning of Qurans have turned violent. Now, it's true that the Bible contains the same kinds of verses calling for death for blasphemers and other sinners that the Quran does. But Christians seem to get the fact that you don't act that way nowadays. While even many moderate Muslims think that death is the appropriate punishment for blasphemy. So in countries that have blasphemy, death penalty laws, you don't see the people calling for their repeal. And that's probably why Islam has not progressed like Christianity has. There was a time when Christians had a lot of political power in Europe. There was the Holy Roman Empire, and most of the countries were at least partly theocracies, though which sect of Christianity they were depended on what the religion of the king was. But as time wore on, the Holy Roman Empire fell, and governments became less theocratic and more secular. So that instead of the kings being cowed by the Pope and by religious leaders in their country, they decided that they were going to be the ones calling the shots. When the monarchs fell and representative government began to spread across Europe, the church's political power waned even more. Now, I'm no expert, but I suspect that if the churches had retained their political power today's Christians would probably behave a lot like today's Muslims do. When I look at the Christian right, I see a lot of people who would love to go kill for Jesus. Fortunately, our culture constrains them. Which brings me to what I think is the key to bringing Islam into the modern age. It's going to take a long time, but eventually the Islamic theocracies must give way to secular leadership. Religious laws must be abolished, and the imams and ayatollahs must cede their power. That does not mean the countries will become full democracies. Let's face it, the Middle East just doesn't do democracy really well. But Islam, if it can be separated from the levers of political power, that might eventually have a moderating influence on it. Thanks for listening.